The transport hub on Cygnus Station was a nightmare of identical docking bays and incomprehensible signage. After a 14-hour delay and a complete neural network failure that wiped my data slate twice, I was running on caffeine and desperation. My ship, the Starlight Dreamer, was supposedly in Bay 7 Alpha. I'd checked the schematic 3 times. Bay 7 Alpha, Deck 14, Section C. I found the bay. I found the ship. It was a mid-sized civilian transport, battered but serviceable, its loading ramp extended in welcome. I staggered up the ramp, dragging my duffel, my eyes burning with exhaustion. Finally, I muttered, dropping my bag in the airlock. I'm here. Tell the captain I'm awake and I didn't miss the departure. The airlock cycled, and I stepped inside. The first thing I noticed was the smell. It wasn't the sterile, faintly metallic scent of a human ship. It was rich and organic, like damp soil after rain, mixed with something sweet and unfamiliar. The second thing I noticed was the light. It was warmer, tinged with amber, not the harsh white I was used to. The third thing I noticed was that I was not alone. A creature was standing in the corridor before me. It was roughly my height, but that's where the similarities ended. Its body was covered in soft, moss-like fur of a deep emerald green. It had 4 arms, each ending in delicate, 3-fingered hands. Its face was dominated by 2 large, luminous amber eyes with no visible pupils, and its head was crowned with a cluster of thin, tendril-like appendages that swayed gently, as if sensing the air. It wore a simple tunic of woven fibers. We stared at each other. Then the creature screamed. It wasn't a loud scream, but a high-pitched, melodic trill of pure alarm. It stumbled backward, its 4 arms flailing, and disappeared through a doorway, its cries echoing through the ship. I heard the sound of multiple footsteps, some heavy, some light, and then the corridor was full of them. They were all like the first one. Green moss fur for arms, amber eyes, gently swaying head tendrils. They wore practical clothing in earth tones. They formed a semicircle around me, not quite blocking my path to the airlock, but creating a very clear boundary. They didn't look hostile. They looked terrified and fascinated, like a nature documentary crew that had just stumbled upon a legendary beast. A larger one, its fur streaked with silver, stepped forward. The tendrils on its head moved in a complex pattern, and a small device on its collar hummed to life. "You are not one of us," it said, its voice translated by the device into flat, accented standard. It was a statement of fact, not an accusation. "No," I said, my own voice sounding strange. "I'm not. I'm Elara. I'm supposed to be on the Starlight Dreamer in Bay 7 Alpha." The silver-streaked ones had tendrils twitched. "This is Bay 7 Alpha." "Yes, exactly. So you see..." I stopped. "Wait. This is Bay 7 Alpha?" "This is Bay 7 Alpha of the Cygnus Station Diplomatic Spire, Section C, Deck 14. My stomach dropped. Diplomatic Spire? This is the civilian transport wing. The creature's amber eyes blinked slowly. All of them. "No. This is the diplomatic wing. The civilian wing is on the opposite side of the station. The signage is notoriously confusing. Many beings make this error." I turned and ran back to the airlock, slamming my hand on the control panel. It beeped red. The outer door remained sealed. "Why won't this open?" I demanded. "We have departed," the silver-streaked one said calmly. Departure was scheduled for 2200 hours station time. It is now 22:07. We are approximately 30,000 kilometers from Cygnus Station and accelerating. I stared at it. I stared at the unyielding airlock door. I stared at the semicircle of alien faces, all watching me with those huge, unblinking amber eyes. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no. My name is Elara Vance. I am a civilian agricultural consultant. I was supposed to be heading to the farming colonies on New Terra to advise on soil regeneration. Instead, I was now on a diplomatic vessel belonging to a species I had never seen before, heading to a destination I did not know, with no way to get off. I turned back to them, my heart hammering. Okay. You need to turn around. You need to take me back. This is a mistake. I'm not supposed to be here." The silver-streaked one regarded me for a long moment. Its head tendrils moved in what I would later learn was a gesture of deep contemplation. "I am Elder Thorn," it said. "This is the vessel Harmonious Petition. We are the Veth, and we are en route to the Arcturus Summit to negotiate a critical trade alliance with the Krell Confederation. Our diplomatic contingent is complete. Our schedules are fixed. Turning back is not possible. But I'm not part of your diplomatic contingent," I nearly shouted. "Clearly," Elder Thorn said. "You are an anomaly, an unexpected variable. We have no protocol for unexpected variables." "Then let me off at the next station. Any station. Drop me in a pod. Something." Elder Thorn's tendrils twitched again. "We carry no escape pods. They are not diplomatic. We are on a direct course. There are no stations along our route for another 12 standard days. And the Krell will not wait. The summit is in 8 days. 12 days. 8 days to the summit." The math was simple, and it was devastating. I was stuck. Elder Thorn turned to the others and spoke in its own language, a series of musical chirps and whistles. The other Veth responded, their head tendrils moving in a flurry of communication. Finally, Elder Thorn turned back to me. "You will stay," it said. "You will be our guest. We will provide you with quarters, sustenance, and an explanation of our ways. When we reach Arcturus, we will arrange for your transport back to human space. It is the only logical solution." It wasn't a request. It wasn't even really an offer. It was a statement of fact, delivered with the same calm certainty as the news that we had already left the station. "But I can't just," I started. "You will stay," Elder Thorn repeated, and this time there was a slight shift in its tone, a hint of something that might have been firmness. "You're here. We are here. The universe has presented us with a situation. We will adapt. So will you." And that was that. The first few days were surreal. I was given a small but comfortable cabin, the bed a soft, moss-like material that smelled like a forest after rain. The food was plant-based and surprisingly good, though I had to learn to eat with 4 hands constantly trying to help me. The Veth were unfailingly polite, curious, and utterly bewildering. They asked me endless questions. What was it like to have only 2 arms? Did I miss the other 2? How did I manage complex tasks? Did I ever drop things? They were fascinated by my skin, my hair, my teeth. They would gather in small groups and simply watch me eat, their head tendrils swaying in what I learned was a sign of intense interest. But whenever I asked about the ship, about the controls, about any possible way to communicate with the outside, they would politely change the subject. Whenever I wandered near what I thought might be the bridge, a Veth would appear as if by magic and gently guide me back toward the living quarters. On the 5th day, I found a small observation lounge with a viewport. I sat there for hours, watching the stars streak by, feeling more alone than I ever had in my life. A young Veth named Lyra found me there. Her fur was a lighter green, and her tendrils were shorter, more energetic. "You are sad," she said. It wasn't a question. "I'm lost," I said. "I'm on a ship full of strangers, going somewhere I don't want to go, with no control over any of it." Lyra sat down beside me, her 4 hands folded in her lap. We are all lost, she said. We just don't know it most of the time. You're just aware of it. I laughed, a hollow sound. That's not comforting. No, she agreed. But it is true. She was quiet for a moment, then said, The elders are worried about you. They don't know what to do. You are not in any of our texts. There is no guidance. Some think you are a sign. Others think you are a test. No one knows which. A sign of what? She shrugged, a surprisingly human gesture. That is the problem. We don't know. So we wait. We watch. We learn. That is what we do. On the 7th day, something changed. The ship's internal lights flickered. A low hum, normally constant, wavered. Alarms began to chirp softly. I felt a shift in the deck plating beneath my feet. I was already moving toward the bridge before I consciously decided to. This time, no one stopped me. I found the bridge, a circular room filled with Veth at various stations, their four hands flying over controls, their tendrils moving in urgent patterns. Elder Thorn stood in the center, its posture radiating tension. What's happening? I asked. It turned to me, its amber eyes wide. We're being pursued. Krell raiders. They must have learned of our mission. They want to prevent the Alliance. They are faster than us. They will catch us before we reach Arcturus. Can you fight them off? We are a diplomatic vessel. We have minimal defenses. Enough to deter, not to defeat. Its tendrils drooped. Our mission is over. The Alliance is lost. I looked at the main view screen. On it, I could see 3 sleek, predatory ships closing in, their weapon systems clearly active. The Veth around me were panicking, their calm demeanor shattered. They were diplomats, not warriors. They had no idea what to do. And then something clicked in my head. All those hours of feeling helpless, of being a passive passenger in my own life. It crystallized into something else. Anger, determination, and a crazy, probably suicidal idea. Show me your engine specs, I said. Elder Thorn stared at me. What? Your engines. Propulsion, power distribution, emergency overrides. Show me. Now. I don't know why it listened. Maybe it was desperation. Maybe it was the tone of my voice. But it gestured to a terminal, and a Veth technician scurried aside. I sat down and started reading. It took me 10 minutes to understand the basics. The Harmonious Petition had a powerful core drive, but its power was carefully regulated, distributed evenly to all systems. But there were emergency protocols, designed to funnel all available power to engines for a last-ditch escape. The problem was rerouting that much power would overload the shields and life support. It was a suicide run, designed to give the crew a few minutes of maximum speed before everything failed. But what if you didn't funnel all the power? What if you just redirected it creatively? I started issuing orders. The Veth, desperate for direction, obeyed. I had them reroute power from non-essential systems, the galley, the environmental controls in unused quarters, the diplomatic communication array we couldn't use anyway. Then I had them boost the engine output by 40%, but instead of a straight line, I programmed a series of erratic, unpredictable micro-jumps. We wouldn't be faster, but we would be harder to hit. Then I turned to the weapons. They were minimal, point-defense lasers meant to deflect debris. But if we could lure the raiders into chasing us, we could use the Engine's own radiation signature as a weapon. I had them vent a cloud of superheated plasma from the engine exhaust, timed to ignite just as the lead raider passed through it. It was insane. It was a plan held together with hope and human stubbornness. But it worked. The raiders, expecting a slow, helpless target, were caught off guard by our erratic flight. Their first volley missed. Their second grazed our shields, but the power was holding. Then the lead ship hit the plasma cloud. Its shields flared, overloaded, and its engine stalled. The other two ships swerved to avoid their crippled companion, and in that moment of confusion, we poured on all the speed we had. By the time they reorganized, we were too close to Arcturus. The system's defense grid had detected the engagement and was scrambling interceptors. The raiders, not interested in a fair fight, turned and fled. The bridge was silent. Then, one by one, the Veth turned to look at me. Their amber eyes were wide. Their head tendrils were perfectly still, a sign of the deepest respect. Elder Thorn approached me slowly. It looked at me as if seeing me for the first time. "You are not an anomaly," it said softly. "You are not a test. You are a gift." I shook my head, adrenaline still pumping. "I just didn't want to die." "No," Elder Thorn said. "You did what none of us could. You saw a path where we saw only an end. You adapted. You led." It straightened its posture, and the other Veth did the same, their tendrils lifting in unison. "Elara Vance of Earth," Elder Thorn announced, its voice carrying through the bridge. "By the laws of necessity and the traditions of our people, when one saves the ship and the mission, that one becomes part of the crew. Not as a guest, not as an anomaly, as one of us. You will always have a place here." I opened my mouth to protest, to say that I still wanted to go home, that this was all a mistake. But the words didn't come, because looking at their faces, their terrified, relieved, grateful faces, I realized that for the first time in 7 days, I didn't feel lost. I felt found. The ending. The Harmonious Petition arrived at Arcturus to a hero's welcome. The Krell Confederation, impressed by our survival against the raiders, signed the trade alliance without further negotiation. They wanted to meet the human who had turned a diplomatic vessel into a tactical nightmare. I spent an evening with Krell diplomats, explaining that no, humans didn't normally do this, and yes, I would very much like to go home now. They arranged transport. A fast Krell courier ship would take me back to human space within the week. On my last night aboard the Harmonious Petition, the Veth held a ceremony. They presented me with a small woven band, made from the fibers of their homeworld's oldest tree. Elder Thorn placed it around my wrist. "This is not a leash," it said. "It is a reminder. You are always welcome. You are always one of us." Lyra hugged me with all 4 arms, and I hugged her back with my 2. Then I walked down the ramp for the last time, onto the Krell ship, and I didn't look back until the Veth vessel was just a dot against the stars. I made it home. I went back to my soil regeneration projects, my quiet life, my 2-armed existence. But sometimes, late at night, I look at the woven band on my wrist and remember the feeling of being lost and being found, and learning that home isn't always a place. Sometimes it's a group of 4-armed, moss-furred diplomats who taught me that even an anomaly can become exactly where you belong.